You being authentic or are you just being an asshole? Big question. Big answer. Which is it for you? When we think about being authentic, I hear this, and especially from political environment right now, and we're going to enter into even more of this over the next 150 days or so as we go through what this election cycle looks like. But forget politics and put it aside and start thinking about everyday life. Start thinking about how you interact with people at work, people in your inner circles, whether you are in some, for some of you, social media, others in family dynamics. But, as we start to think of the word authentic, it's one of the most, I think, overused words right now in current times, because people will say, well, I was just being authentic. I was just being authentic. I want somebody that's authentic. I want to be, the authenticity of this. And as we look at how that's being used is, what does authentic even actually mean? It's starting to turn in my opinion, to a license to be basically belligerent and disrespectful and use the guise of, well, I was just being authentic. That's how I feel. So I was just being transparent and authentic. Well, I think that that's fine and dandy in certain circumstances. I've got a call with a group of fraternity brothers, and some of the things we talk about, I can be a certain person on that call that I'm not going to be the same way in a business meeting, or I'm not going to be the same way with my wife and my mom and my sister and my grandmother that I am on that call. So being authentic at any whim that we wanted to be is that there's also a standard of being respectful and being professional. We start looking at debates and things of that nature if we want to go back to the political discussion, and we've lost any sense of the Lincoln Douglas debate formats to where we actually make a point, counterpoint, principles, things of that nature. But now we're just interrupting, we're stepping all over, and we're just being transparent and authentic. So as we start to take a look at this, I would challenge each of us, myself included, this message is as much for me as it anybody, is start to take a look at creating a shift and start to change a couple of things. And Seth Godin was talking about this that really made me started thinking about it. But, as you look at authentic, being authentic in the moment, are you being that way to feel good about yourself? Or are you trying to look at it from a overly brutal truth, or maybe it's power? But probably more than anything else is that I just feel good saying it for the short term. And we think that that's going to make a lasting impact. But the truth of the matter is that if we take a look at where we are in today, in our interactions, in our trust factors of whether we know, like, and trust somebody, is that if we're going to truly make a difference, and we're going to change a system, we're going to change the way people think, interact, and be, we got to start to take a look at who we are and what we do over time, and to be consistent over time. Because it is something that I think will start to be, I don't know that it would be more valuable. I just think that it is valuable. And I think it will be more appreciated and it'll be more understood that if we take a step back, and yes, I want to be transparent, and yes, I want to be genuine, and I want to be authentic. But, it's like people, John Maxwell said this, and I think it's very, very true, and it definitely holds truth for me, is that, well, people often say, I'm amazed at what you say. Well, if you're amazed at what I say, you'd be really amazed at what I don't say. Growing up, my grandfather, and later on life, a mentor of mine back in my FedEx days, Mike Kaufman, we were having a conversation and a beverage or two, and he just looked at me and he goes, son, there's some people that say the second or the first thing that comes to their mind at any given moment. They just speak no filter. And I shook my head and I laughed at him and I said, yes, The good ones are that way. And he goes, yeah, he goes, but then there's other people that say the second thing that come to their mind. They actually pause and think about things and the impacts of them. You might want to consider the third, fourth, or even the fifth thing that comes to mind. Anybody ever told you that before? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, they did. It was my grandfather, and I've had several other people. And he's like, well, you're not listening and learning very well. So as you look at what genuine and authentic looks like in your life, how you communicate, how you present yourself, are you trying to be the same person in all situations? If you are, you're probably not being real appropriate, depending upon the situation, the condition, the circumstances, the people around. And you need to check your authenticness and start to look for alignment of your values, of who you are, what you stand for, and what's the best way for you to conduct yourself, communicate, and provide a lasting long-term impact versus a very short-term, what might feel good kind of comment, and have a large splash for a moment, but it's trickled off and soon forgotten. You can be authentic, but you're probably being an ass.